It doesn't go over too well for
vanilla
me.
and orchid, Ryan. I learned that last week at the Longwood Gardens.
Oh,
I didn't. I never knew that. So if you eat vanilla ice cream or anything with vanilla, it's an orchid.
All right, I guess. I mean, who the hell am I to argue that?
Well, no, that's what I said. We're walking around the conservatory there, and there's the orchid room. They have I forgot how many.
This was a wife trip, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it though. It was very cool.
Oh, okay.
But
so she took you to a garden.
Mm-hmm.
You have to now take her to a wrestling show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's written in the cards.
Yeah, she
boyfriend or husband goes to garden. She has to go to a wrestling show. She knows that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I would say she will. She does now, but she hasn't listened to the wrestling podcast.
Oh yeah.
But no, she's got to go to a wrestling show now. But more vanilla than vanilla.
Yeah, it just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't.
I don't know where this leads.
The Adam Rose thing has to be dead. He did the party pooper thing, then that didn't take off. He's doing this rose bush thing. That's not necessarily taking off very well.
Yeah, I like I said, I like the rosebush thing, but I don't know where it leads.
It's a 45-minute segment or 45-second segment on Raw. It's easily missable.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where it leads, but let's get to this Extreme Rules tag match.
Loved it.
Obviously, the Wyatt family taking on Team ECW. For me, Ryan, there was points in the match where I thought Team ECW was going to win, and I didn't like that.
What would have been No, why would you say that? There wouldn't have been a problem with that.
There would have been a problem. The Wyatt,
absolutely not.
It would have undone. It would have undone, I think, what they did the night before.
No.
Sure. You have them conquer the team, and I get at the beginning. You know I don't know. I'm glad that the Wyatt family won. I like the match. I would not have liked the match if the Wyatt family lost. That's how critical I think it was that the Wyatt family won even last night on Raw. Because of how poorly they have developed the Wyatt family. Winning on the pay-per-view and then losing to the same team the next night, I think leaves a lasting impression of you losing that feud, or you got lucky beating them in the pay-per-view.
No. I'm going off script here, Jim. I know we talked about this earlier in the show, but you're absolutely wrong. Don't do this. Please, I'm going to. I'm going to do it. Don't turn my microphone down.
No, don't do it. Think of your family. Think of your fans. Think of everybody.
I'm doing it. It's not that bad. It's the ECW, Team ECW in Philadelphia.
Yes.
In Philadelphia.
Yes.
Which is the home of
ECW. Correct.
So you're telling me that a Wyatt loss in an ECW style match in Philadelphia, the home of ECW, with 4 ECW originals, would carry more weight and would undo what happened on a pay-per-view?
I do. Because
and I think Matt agrees with you too, because we were arguing a bit on Twitter about that. It's a Raw show. I don't get it.
Just because of how the Wyatts have been booked, Ryan. Had they not been booked so poorly for their entire time in WWE, I would agree with you. But the poorly executed development of the Wyatt family as a legitimate, as Bray Wyatt as the new face of fear, the eater of worlds, and this family is just absolutely dominating. Nobody believes that they are. So, they
get their ass kicked with a bunch of weapons in a match that suits the 4 opponents.
Right, which is why at the beginning, when the Team Extreme held complete control of the match, I didn't have a problem with it. But in the end, the Wyatt family won, which is what should have happened. Team Extreme should not have beaten the Wyatt family. Yes, even in Extreme. Because here's the thing, Ryan. Think of it as a football game. If a team that's 2-8 is taking on is hosting a rival team that is 8-2 or 10-0, that home field advantage might play into favor first quarter, into the second quarter maybe, but as the better team starts to take control, home field advantage kind of fades a little bit, which is exactly kind of how that this match was booked. Team Extreme, they held all the high cards in their hands, and they dominated early on. But the Wyatt family, as they should.
Can we stop calling them Team Extreme? And that wasn't just you, but they've been saying it all the time. Isn't that what the friggin' Hardys came into WWE as? Team Extreme?
Sure, Team ECW. Sorry.
No,
or the
it's fine,
ECW
but
originals.
you brought up a point because they've been friggin' saying it over and over and over again, and I wanted to say about it, and I would have forgot if you didn't just say it there.
Well, you could have told JBL about it, but he's already blocked you.
God, he'd have blocked me for something as childish as that.
He probably would have. Which, complete side note, but how can you have that thin of skin? I understand. I get people are gonna probably tweet some pretty horrible stuff at you, but something because he probably would. I almost want to tweet that from the 3 count, but it just. I like the match. I really did like the match, Ryan.
Oh man, the match was great. Let's not argue about the match. The match was great. Right.
And in the interest of time, let's get ahead here to the main event. A job versus title match. I mean that's what it was. Roman Reigns versus Sheamus. And throughout the match, I mean the League of Nations got involved. Vince McMahon got involved, pulling a referee out. I mean, they just continued to do everything they could to ensure that Roman Reigns did not win this match, did not win the World Heavyweight Championship. But in the end, Roman Reigns Superman punched Vince McMahon. And then
kudos to Vince for taking that
spot. And then post-match actually kicked him off the apron.
Right.
Kudos to Vince for taking that. And Roman Reigns got the spear. Sheamus was going for the brogue kick, and Reigns hit him with the spear, wins the match, and is your new World Heavyweight Champion. And the crowd, and we have friends that were down there and had video of it, they did not pump in artificial crowd noise. There was none of this going on. They did not.
No, they came unglued.
The crowd loved it. The crowd went nuts for Roman Reigns.
How does a Philadelphia crowd go pro Roman Reigns? How does that happen? How did he do that?
Because he went and basically gave the finger to the authority. He went and gave the finger to his boss. And I mean, if there's anything that Vince can get behind, or excuse me, that the Philly crowd can get behind, I think it was that.
It's flipping off your boss, sure.
Was
it that easy though? Oh man!
Apparently, it's that easy. I think we have Mark on the line.
Intern Mark. Is he
Intern
joining
Mark
us tonight?
Is this Mark?
Hey, go for that guy.
There he is. Mark, how are you tonight, man?
Greetings. Hey, I'm good. How are you gentlemen?
We are doing very well. We're doing very well. We're talking about the main event from last night and the crowning of a new champion, the change from 11 months ago when a riot almost ensued at the end of Royal Rumble in Philadelphia when Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble, and now 11 months later, the crowd coming unglued in the most positive of ways when Roman Reigns wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Really is a sign of what storylines and what booking can do, and kudos to the WWE for actually not only what they did Sunday night, but being able to not only control the Philadelphia crowd, but get them to believe in Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I thought that was phenomenal because, as you know, the Philly crowd is, for any kind of sport, is a rough crowd. And the fact, I think Roman Reigns finally earned their respect last night.
I think he did too. I mean, Ryan, I think when we broke down the pay-per-view, it was a 25-minute TLC match, a physical match. They come back last night and do it over again. A strong physical match. A guy, fights all the odds and wins the match. And really, in the interest of time, looking at Raw and looking at the ratings, the question was, for me all day, and looking at it last night, was, did they do enough to get people to watch it? Because, a show can be great, but if nobody's watching, how good was it? And the rating, the first hour, 4.043 million. Second hour did 3.786. And the final hour drew 3.825 million. The average being 3.884, up from last week's 3.054. So you gain 800,000 on average from last week till this week. And I think it's worth noting here that, yes, you may have dropped about 300,000 viewers from hour 1 to hour 2, but you gained 100,000 back in that last hour when it typically does drop off a couple 100,000.
Jim, let me ask you this. Did the WWE get too smart there with the crappy match that Vince McMahon introduced or interrupted? Do you think that affected the drop there? Because it was Bo Dallas and I'm just drawing a blank.
R-Truth.
R-Truth. I mean, do you think that had an impact where everybody's like, all right, I can see what's happening on football? That
possibly
led into the second hour.
Yeah, possibly. I can't say for sure, but I mean, maybe people were like, well, if I know, now I know that the main event match is going to be this title versus job match. I can watch football for about an hour and then flip back on Raw. And I mean, again, it's worth noting too, because that game was a close game last night. I mean, I know the Giants and Dolphins, it's not the biggest of teams in terms of people that are tuning in, but in a tight game, teams of people in fantasy football playoffs, and both
of them had playoff implications. I mean, the Patriots are in now because of the Dolphin loss.
Sure,
and
but
the NFC East.
But I just don't think they're the biggest fan bases.
They're not.
But the fact that you could actually pull people away from whatever they're watching and get them back on Raw in that last hour, I think is huge. So, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for what the WWE is doing. I enjoyed Raw. I mean, I'm going to give it, like we said, I'm going to give this thing like, if it's not an A+, it's an A.
Right. This was the best
Raw
of
the year.
Bar none, best Raw of the year. If we had a Raw that felt like an Attitude Era Raw, and like I said earlier in the show, this was the Raw. We had solid women's match, the hardcore match that brought all over the arena. We talked about that. Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon slapping people. We had a championship match, a WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, and a title change all on Raw. This was huge. And if you think about it, you go back in history to when Mick Foley won on Raw and what that did to the WWE. Could we be seeing that moment last night with the crowning of a new champion on Raw with Roman Reigns? Mark, but what's your take on that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it might be a little premature to say that, but it's a good possibility. I'm really anxious to see what comes up here next week on Raw. Not so much on SmackDown, but Raw, I think, is really, depending on what they do next week, I think that'll say a lot.
No, that's a good point, too, with SmackDown now moving to the USA Network. What a great time for the WWE to really step up their game, because, the SmackDown move is a big thing that they want to keep their eyes on, and they want to bring good ratings to the USA Network for that as well.
Sure, Mark. Do you have a letter grade that you would give Raw last night?
Yeah, I would give it an absolute B+. I was above average for sure. I would dare say it was probably the best Raw of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all in agreement there. So let's move away from Raw Again, in interest of time, if we run over the